Good morning, Milwaukee. How are you doing this morning? My name is Karen Dotson. I'm from the All of Us Research Program at the Medical College of Wisconsin. And I have along with me my favorite doctor in the morning. Good morning, Dr. Kevin Izard.
Good
How
morning,
are you?
Milwaukee, and good morning, Karen.
How you doing this morning?
Hey, I'm among the living, so
Oh,
that's
that's
a good
always a
thing.
good sign. I'm glad you decided to join us this morning then.
Yes. Hey, good morning.
Yeah, I just wanted to let the community know that when you all were calling in and had questions related to different disease topics, health related issues, one of them was Alzheimer's. And we're going to have some discussion about that today. We have a special guest with us today as well, Diane Milner. You will be hearing more about her in a few minutes. But I just wanted to remind people about the All of Us Research Program. And the ultimate goal for our program is to build the largest database in the world. And currently we are. We have. We're close to maybe about 700,000 individuals or more that have joined, and we are still clicking those numbers up. I was looking at some of the research that was related to the topic today of Alzheimer's. And so, Dr. Izard, we're going to kind of talk a little bit more about it. You know, Dr. Izard kind of reminded me this week, like, this is one of the topics that our community brought forward and said they wanted to have more conversation about.
Yeah.
And I said, let's do a little digging in, because he doesn't really make too many recommendations to me. He kind of lets me, kind of do whatever that he feels we feel is pretty good. He said, well, you haven't felt me yet, Karen. I said, no,
That is true.
Let's do Alzheimer's
That is
today,
true.
because this is something that is really true to most of our most of our families. I think almost all of us can remember or have some loved one that has had challenges in this area.
Yeah, as people get older, we're going to see a lot more people who are developing Alzheimer's disease, but it touches not just people, the immediate families, but the extended families of those individuals, because you have family members taking care of them, and it's it's something that's driving the cost of healthcare. It's becoming a huge problem as the baby boomers get older.
And I remember actually my grandmother had it, and my mother really did an awesome job in taking care of her. We were pretty young at the time and not quite getting it. When you see that happening, but I know that it really, just kept getting worse and worse for her until she needed someone to help feed her and all those kinds of things, and couldn't walk anymore. And so we're going to dive into this topic today, because we know a lot of people out there are challenged with that. And also, what really got me is that when you're 65 or older, that is when it seems like we're more challenged than ever with this disease. And so, Dr. Kevin, I know you have patients that have had challenges with this.
Yeah, I had one lady I was thinking about this morning. Way I knew is because she came in one day for her exam and her shirt was inside out, and she didn't realize it. And over the next year, her husband contacted me and said he's concerned about her memory, and she rapidly declined. So the thing about it is that your body can be in good shape, but your mind is going and you're forgetting things. Then it becomes dangerous for you to be at home alone. So then what do? Her husband's working. They didn't have any children around, so who's gonna watch her during the day? And
How
so
old was
all
she?
these
What
issues.
was her age?
She was like 60. She was pretty
Okay, so I
young.
was pretty young
Yeah.
considering that.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm gonna dive into a little bit more, as far as when people get it a lot younger in life, does it progress a lot quicker? Or, how does that work? I'm just kind of curious with that, doctor.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that question. Whether they progress any quicker. That's maybe Miss Milner knows that.
Yeah, so we're gonna, you know what? Let's do this. Let's bring Diane Milner in right now, you all. I want to introduce you to her. She is actually the director of diversity and equity and inclusion at the Alzheimer's Association Wisconsin chapter. Her mother passed away from Alzheimer's disease in the early 20s, and she used the association as a resource when caring for her mother. And she had a quote that I thought was very interesting. She said, "My job is to make sure that people know we have these resources, and these resources are designed to help them and be designed to be embraced by their communities."
Mm-hmm.
So as we and she had services of working with some older adults and things like that in the past before she has this position, and that's been almost 3 years coming up now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I want to welcome you to At the Table this
Welcome,
morning.
welcome.
Wonderful.
Pull up a
Thank you
chair,
so
get some
much.
Yeah, I
coffee.
always tell
Yes.
people, I
Awesome.
said, I want you to join us at the table, get your coffee, your tea, your juice. We're going to have some serious conversation. So, Diane, this is one of your areas that you have really concentrated on in the
Yes,
recent years. Can you just give us an overview, please?
absolutely. Well, I have been at the Alzheimer's, as you said, at the Alzheimer's Association Wisconsin chapter. I have just celebrated 3 years in October. So you were
Oh,
right on,
okay.
spot on, as they say. So, so thank you so much for having me here today. And I just want to say kudos to all that you're doing with the All of Us program. And I am registered.
Oh, I like to hear
Amen.
that. All
Yes, I'm
right.
registered. So yeah, it's imperative. You know, just like with the Alzheimer's disease, we need people to participate.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're not counted, then they can't design
Mhm.
the proper
Right,
medication
right,
for us.
right.
And
Yes.
it's
Yes.
so imperative. Black Americans are 2 times more likely
Mm-hmm.
to develop this disease
Mm-hmm.
than our white counterparts.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're not counted, if we're not in those clinical trials, if we're not allowing people to, um, if we're not being a part of those clinical trials, then the development of those medications are not going to work for us as best, as well as they should.
That's important too,
It's
because
so
when
important.
you talk about research of the top 10 causes of death, we know heart disease, and we know cancers, and we know COPD and all this. The only one in the top 10 that there is no known treatment for is Alzheimer's disease.
You got it. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Just recently we started with Leqembi. And that was the first time in all these years since Alzheimer's has been developed that we've had a drug that actually treats the disease. In the past, all they did, like Dr. Izzard said, all they did was treated the symptoms, the behaviors and different things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So now we finally are coming up on an age, and this is decades and decades. And that is so it's still not readily available because
Mm-hmm.
you have to be diagnosed early on
Right.
in the disease in order for the medication to have any effect.
Yeah.
And how many of us mistake Alzheimer's for a sign of aging?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're not going to catch it early in the disease. You're not going to go and get diagnosed because you think that's just a normal
Right.
part of the aging process.
Right.
And by the time it really strikes you that this is something different, it's already too late to be able to use the medication that's just been approved.
So basically, how then should I really look at getting, diagnosed with this? I mean, what would be something that would cue me in and say, maybe I need to get checked? I
Yeah.
mean, because when you first start having the early signs, you still are knowledgeable about things with you.
Yes.
And so,
Yes.
what would give some key areas that we might want to consider for that?
Well, I'm glad you asked.
All right.
We have 10 warning signs.
Mm,
So, just taking heed of those 10 warning signs, and I'll go through them.
please.
First is memory that disrupts daily life. So, forgetting information that you just learned, a question that was just asked, and then suddenly you're saying, okay, what was the question again?
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes now, I think even with older adults in their doctor's office, and Dr. Izzard can confirm that, they will go through, they'll ask an older adult 3 things or something, and then
Mhm.
they'll say,
Right.
later on, I'll bring that up in the conversation.
Mhm.
And if you're finding that your patients are not remembering that, that might be a cue that it's something to take heed. Another one would be difficulty completing familiar tasks. So organizing a grocery list or a favorite recipe that has been in you've used it for years, and then suddenly you can't remember the steps to that recipe, so you're
Mhm.
having to go back to the recipe card or the book and look it up again. um, Another one is challenges in planning or solving problems. So, balancing your checkbook, something that not
Mhm.
many of us have to do anymore because we have it all.
Online.
Yeah, it's all online.
Mm-hmm.
But having trouble keeping track even of the monthly bills. Things that you're doing, just you used to do by rote, and now you can't remember to do it. Confusion with time or place, losing track of dates, the seasons, forgetting to go to choir rehearsal, for instance.
Mm.
You know, we do it all the time. How did we forget this Tuesday? Um, Understanding visual images and spatial relationships,
Mm-hmm.
new problems with word in speaking or writing, misplacing things and losing the ability to retrace your steps. So often we can say, where did I put my keys? Okay, when I came in, I put the groceries down in the kitchen. Let me look in the kitchen. People with memory loss like that, they can't remember to do that. They can't retrace those steps. So
Mm.
that's a really good sign. Um, d-
That's one that I always worry about because I'm always misplacing my keys sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think a lot of us do that.
oh yes, without a doubt.
So
But
I was just like, okay, is that a sign? But what makes it different?
what makes it different is that, like I said, if you misplaced your keys, you can oftentimes retrace your steps. And
Okay.
you'll say, okay, I went to the bedroom as soon as I got in the house. Yeah, I'll go there. The keys are probably there. And sure enough, they'll be there. It's when you find those keys in the freezer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, got it.
There
Okay.
you go. That's the
Okay, that's the
difference.
difference.
That's the difference. Yes. So, decreased or poor judgment. We find a lot of our older adults are victims of scams because they just don't have the judgment in place anymore to make a sound decision that this is not right. Something is not right about this. This story sounds fishy,
Mm,
but they don't have that ability anymore.
okay.
Withdrawing from work or social activities.
Mm-hmm.
So often,
Isolating themselves.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, Mrs. George that sat at the end of the pew every Sunday. She's not there anymore. What's going on? Why isn't she coming to church?
Mm, okay.
Those kinds of
Yeah.
things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, changes in mood or personality.
Mm-hmm.
Someone that used to be super sweet, like my mother. There were times where I was like, who is this lady that
Mm-hmm.
I'm living with?
Right.
She
Right.
would get angry, she would get
Mm-hmm.
agitated. That's a symptom that we call sundowning.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like with a child. If you can remember with children, sometimes when they are overly tired, they have tantrums. And older adults with dementia can often be, or anyone. Now dementia is not allocated to just older adults.
So when you say sundowning, is
Hmm.
that's a word that I've heard,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
and I want us to really dive in that a little deeper because it seems like mood changes when the sun
Yeah.
goes
Yeah.
down.
Yeah. A
Hmm.
lot. Some of it is visual cues, like because we know based on where the sun is, what time of day it is.
Hmm.
And so when it gets dark, especially if people who are in the hospital,
Hmm.
if they don't have a room, that's why they try to have all rooms have windows in hospitals
Hmm.
now. But yeah, so if you start losing your visual cues as to what time of day is, and you're already just barely holding it together,
Hmm.
and yeah, you just get really confused. And you can time it. It's like as soon as that is evening time,
Hmm.
yeah, people start getting
So
weird.
is it better then to keep lights around more so to help with that, or that mood doesn't change that way at
I
all?
think it's more trying to keep the cues, so have a regular schedule because, and that's the other thing too is that when people are in the midst of this, they gotta have a regular schedule. When you
Hmm.
disrupt their schedule, you go on vacation, you take a
Hmm.
trip somewhere,
Hmm.
anything comes in and disrupts the schedule, throws them off.
Wow. When I was doing my research, because I always like to get prepared and see exactly what our program, the All of Us Research Program, has related to our topics. And one thing that was mentioned is that the World Health Organization, they mentioned that blood pressure and type 2 diabetes can cause increase in a person's risk of dementia
Hmm.
or Alzheimer's.
Hmm.
And then what the All of Us Research Program did is that they have, and I should say we have, over 125 participants that have been confirmed with having some form of dementia but also having high blood pressure as a risk factor.
Hmm.
How does that play into,
Yeah. Yeah.
this related
And
issue?
actually, before you do that, let's talk about the difference because people say someone's got dementia, someone has
Right.
Alzheimer's. What's the difference?
And I was
People,
going back and forth with
right,
that. So
right, right.
please do.
So,
Mhm.
so dementia is the bigger term. Okay, Alzheimer's is a type of dementia. Okay, there's other different dementias. There's Lewy body dementia. There's
Yes.
you can have small blood vessel disease that can cause dementia. So when people have high blood pressure, it affects the blood circulation to their brain, and as you get older, you lose blood cell. I mean, you lose neurons in your brain. Well, when you start losing enough and you add onto that either dementia, you add onto that Alzheimer's, or I'm sorry, you add onto that diabetes or high blood pressure, and you're losing even more neurons. Well, then you start developing those signs of dementia. So some people have had small infarcts in their brain and maybe not known about it, and they're losing that function. And so as you lose those brain cells, your memory starts to go.
So basically, is it true to say that this disease kind of eats away at the brain cells in a sense, or it just
Yeah, well, it's a
stops it from
dysfunctional, right? They're not
developing?
working. They're not working.
Explain.
They're not working. And Alzheimer's is a specific disease, and we're not quite sure exactly all of what it is, but you form this protein in your brain, and they describe them on an MRI as tangles. So these neurons form, they look like tangles in the brain, and those are like neurons that have been kind of destroyed, and you get this protein that builds up. Um, and so some of the treatments that they're doing for Alzheimer's is trying to target that protein so that you don't get that protein that builds up in the brain and causing dysfunction. I guess some of it, some other. So if you previously had a stroke, you're more likely to develop dementia later. So again, anything you're doing to either kill or disrupt the function of brain cells can cause dementia.
Mhm. Diane, you shaking your head on that.
Absolutely. He
Okay.
is spot on, of course,
Yes,
because
yes.
he's coming from a medical perspective. So he has studied this, and it makes sense that anything that affects, well, we always say if it's good for your heart, even, it's good for your brain.
Mhm.
So we're telling people diet and exercise and things like that are so very important. There are, as he said, there's so many different types of dementia, and vascular dementia, as we were talking about, constructing those blood vessels, constructing the pathways to the brain are a very big determining factor in vascular dementia and things like that. So it is important that we look at underlying uh, comorbidities. And determining that. And just as Dr. Izzard said, my mother, that was some of the signs that was showing. She started having these little small strokes. And which, and the bigger issue, I think, at least from my perspective, living in Minnesota and being a caregiver here in Wisconsin, I saw the biggest issue for her was the trauma of having lost her leg.
Wow.
And
Wow.
and she lost it because of smoking, not because of and so again, all of those things are affecting the brain.
Right. It's
You
like
know.
the oxygen levels.
Exactly.
So, we're gonna come back in a few minutes, but I'm gonna ask the community to call in if you have questions and comments. If you want to sit with us at the table today, you can do that by calling 414-444-5250. And that's 414-444-5253. We're going to ask you to take a minute and dial that number and call and have conversation with us today at the table. We'll be right back.
My name is Anton Moore. Around here, we have hardworking people that just need a break. Whether it's investing in small businesses or making housing affordable, Vice President Harris gets it.
Kamala Harris is making sure Black men have the tools to build generational wealth. She'll put a policy in place that gives 1 million forgivable loans to help entrepreneurs, including Black entrepreneurs, start their own businesses. She also plans to give $25,000 in down payment assistance for first-time homeowners. and crack down on racial bias in home appraisals. Harris's plan will help Black men own more assets so we can build long-term wealth.
This is what an investment in my community looks like. We're trying to build generational wealth. No get-rich-quick schemes, no scams, no one-time check, none of that. Vice President Harris got our back. I'll be there on November 5th. Will you be there?
I'm Kamala Harris, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Harris for President.
When you fill out a ballot, incoming election season, the moment we've been waiting for.
Since 1986, the Community Brainstorming Conference has been at the forefront of civic engagement in Wisconsin. We've brought together residents, elected officials, and political candidates to discuss the issues that matter most to you. This November 5th, your voice is needed more than ever. Please exercise your right to vote, whether casting your ballot early or on election day. Every vote counts. Stay informed. Track your ballot at myvote.wi.gov. Contact the Milwaukee Election Commission with any voting problems you may experience at the polls. Join us in making a difference to shape the future we want for our communities. Voting is the first step.
Welcome everyone back to the All of Us Research Program at the Table. Conversation this morning we're having is about Alzheimer's. I have Dr. Kevin Izzard, who was a family practice doctor and has a lot of different titles behind his name. Chair of Cream City. What else, Doctor?
That's enough.
Co-investigator for the All of Us Research Program, choir director, and on and on and on. He has a lot of special talents that he shares with the community, and we want to thank him for sharing his talent with us today.
I'm happy to do it. I look at this as my ministry, my mission.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a good ministry too. Yes,
and so there's so few Black doctors in Milwaukee, especially from Milwaukee. So I've always been a soft spot in my heart for for my people
Me
and
too.
what we're struggling with.
Our
And I
community.
know we get tired of hearing, black folks got the most this, black folks got the most that.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
as we talk about Alzheimer's, we're twice as likely, to
Twice as likely.
yeah.
I was just looking at the statistics on that, and not only are we twice as likely to have it, they also mention as far as like when we look at that, we make up about 13% of the U.S. population, but 33% of the nation's total cost of Alzheimer's care is affecting African Americans.
Mm.
So, what does that tell us? That's really diving deep into our pockets.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have with us Diane Milner, who is the Director of Diversity and Equity and Inclusion at the Alzheimer's Association Wisconsin chapter. As I said earlier, we welcome you today. Thank you for sitting at the table with
Yeah.
us.
It is indeed my pleasure.
You
Thank
know,
you so much.
Diane, we were talking during the break, and you have quite a few things that periodically go on in the community, right?
Yes, absolutely.
You have something coming up.
We have something coming up next weekend, next Saturday at St. Mark AME Church. It's called Caring for the Caregiver. And what we're doing is, the tagline for that is celebration of self-care. Self-care is care. So our focus for that particular day is going to be on the caregiver, because just as you were talking about, there are 110,000 people living in Wisconsin alone with dementia. They are cared for by over 200,000 caregivers. And those caregivers so often have to come out of the workplace, as I did when I cared for my mother. I closed up my real estate business in Minneapolis and moved home because nobody can take care of mama like you can. But what happens to those caregivers is oftentimes devastating because they ignore signs of their own impending disease. I've known people who missed the sign of breast cancer, who let their blood pressure become elevated to the point of almost disaster. I've known people that have actually perished in the home caring for their loved one with dementia. So
Wow.
caregiver stress is real.
Yeah.
It is so very real. And our focus on that day is to care for the caregiver. So we give them a day of massages. We have speakers that come in. This year, we're going to do something really unique. We're going to do a dementia live experience. I know you've talked to Dr. Bashir Easter before.
Yes,
And so
yes.
Dr. Bashir is going to be one of our speakers, and his organization, along with Legacy Home Health, Chanel Snowden, are going to offer dementia live experience. So some of our caregivers, especially those who are living in the homes with their loved ones, are going to be able to feel tactile. They'll have gloves on, they'll have headsets, they'll have glasses on that mimic what their loved one is experiencing. And to coin the words of Dr. Bashir Easter, they're not giving you a hard time, they're having a hard time. So we'll be able to understand fully what's going on with our loved ones that are experiencing this disease, and they have to live with it every single day.
Yeah.
So
My mother-in-law, my father-in-law had dementia, and boy, she was started having some health issues. She couldn't sleep, and her had palpitations, and she thought something was going on. She kept going back to the doctor, and we said, "Ma, is she taking care? You can't take care of Dad anymore, because he wants to go up and down the stairs, and it really is unsafe to do that." And was getting more confused, and of course, she didn't want to put him in a nursing home.
Right.
And finally, she ended up having a small lump in her breast and had to have a lumpectomy. Thank God it was okay. It was a very early cancer, but she had to go in the hospital, so we had to put him in respite care. And she said for the first night she slept.
Yes.
When he was out.
Isn't that something?
And she started to realize, yes, it's the stress. They got a term for it now, the sandwich years, those years of your life where you go from between treating your kids, raising your kids, and trying to raise your parents.
I was doing both. When I moved back home, I brought my 3-year-old son with me. And so I had my son and my mother in the house, and I was responsible for everything from the hair on their head to their toenails. So that I was really sandwiched between, and the stress was high. And and I remember one day going to the doctor, and my doctor said, "What are you doing for the stress?" And he wanted to give me an antidepressant. And I pulled my Bible out of my purse and I said, "This is what I'm doing for the stress. I got this. No antidepressants.
Yeah.
Thank you very much."
Right.
Very
But not to
good.
say that those who really clinically need it, I'm not saying don't take it if you
Mhm.
clinically need it, but he just wanted to do that just to help me through
Right,
that period.
right.
And I knew that I didn't need it.
I think the big thing is you got to be aware that if
Absolutely.
you have a parent who's got dementia and you got one of your siblings that's doing all the work, you got to step in and help that sibling.
Isn't
They're gonna
that
get burned
something?
out.
Isn't that something?
Or you
That's
got a
so
parent,
true.
who's taking care of your other parent. They need a break.
They
They
need
need
a break.
respite.
Put a care plan together.
Mhm.
Put a care plan together. Have everybody take a little bit. Even if one person, sometimes siblings, it's hard for them to handle seeing mom or dad that way. So then maybe they can do something that's ancillary. Maybe you can be in charge of the grocery shopping. Just get the food to the house, bring it to the door, and I'll take it from there.
Right.
But do something so that you feel like you're a part of that care plan. Be involved in some way. This summer, I brought the play Unforgettable, and the playwright, Garrett Davis, he put it so succinctly when he said, mama could take care of 9 of us, and 9 of us can't take care of one mama. What's up with that?
Wow, I like that. I like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really a word right there.
That's
Yeah.
profound.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
happens because, sometimes the siblings, they just scatter because they can't handle it emotionally. But find something that you can do. Maybe you can just be the driver, taking mama another sibling can come in and go in the doctor, but maybe you can be the one that drives both of them to the doctor. So do something. Find a way to be a part of that care plan.
I like that, Diane, because a lot of times we run from, challenges, but we don't have to take ownership of all of it. That's what you're
Yes.
saying. Just take a little piece
Take a
and
little
just help each
piece.
other. And so,
Exactly.
everybody has a certain role to play. And so
Exactly.
that's really great to know. One thing when I was reading and when it talks about African Americans and some of our health disparities, what really got me is that African Americans are 44% more likely to die from a stroke, obesity 23% more likely to have diabetes, 72% more likely to be a diabetic, and 2 times as likely to have Alzheimer's. So when we're looking at how we are affected, our bodies, Dr. Kevin Izzard, we got a lot going on here.
We do.
Explain.
We do.
Explain.
Boy, I wish I could explain. That's what all the research comes in, because we know that we are more prone to having these things, and some of these things, if you look at immigrants who come in, same color as us, Nigerian, other African countries, they don't have the same issues, and so it's not necessarily a racial thing. It's a social cultural thing. So something about when they hit the U.S. and they start taking on the stress we have, and they start eating the foods we have and have the lifestyle we have, then they start developing these problems too. So it's multifactorial, and so part of research is trying to parse out what of it is race and genetics, and what part of it is from lifestyle choices we make. The foods we're eating, the not sleeping and being stressed out, and those things, because you can't separate them from your overall health.
We're going to have more conversation about this when we return. This is Karen Dotson from the All of Us Research Program at the Medical College of Wisconsin. We're at the table this morning having deep conversation about Alzheimer's. Please join us. Call in if you have questions. You can reach us at 414-444-5250, 414-444-5253. We'll see you back on the other side.
diamond ring. It's
I want to welcome everybody back to At the Table this morning. We're having some really strong conversation about Alzheimer's. Dr. Kevin Izzard is with me, along with Diane Milner is with me as well from Alzheimer's Association. And we have a caller on the line right now. Welcome, caller, and thank you for joining us at the table this morning.
Well, it's my true pleasure and honor as well. Good morning to all. Good morning, Karen Dotson. Good morning, Kevin Izzard, Dr. Kevin Izzard. All the doctors. Good morning, Dr. Diane.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Milwaukee. Good morning, Mr. Rideout. Good morning, Mr. Carvey.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And the new young man, Mr. Eli. Yeah. Still sleeping, huh? Okay. That's all right. It's Friday. Sleep in a little bit, but get ready for Monday. Yeah, great day and wonderful weekend to all. But yeah, a couple different things. Well, I mean, I've lived a lot of that there because what you're speaking about, I actually did with my Aunt Mary in Chicago, where I was wondering where my female cousins and aunts were. Actually, my Aunt Mary being my mother's my grandmother's younger sister. So my aunt, my grandmother's younger sister, my aunt, one of the younger sisters.
Mm-hmm.
And I went over to Chicago and actually brought her here, where she, long story short, she got on the phone there and talking with people there because she lived with my brother for a while. She was here in this house for a while. But they got her to a nursing home there, got her in one of the hoists there in the shower, the washroom, and they dropped her.
Oh, man.
And the difficulty from that actually led to her, she was up in age, but that led to her finally, leaving us, dying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but anyway, what I was going to say was, what you were speaking about, the dementia and a lot of the things like that. I read the article by Dr. Tamika L. Johnson, and she was stating something from school to the elderly, and are the nurses getting what they need to actually deal with that situation in the schools and the nursing homes, as well as with themselves there, because not only the Caucasian nurse but the black nurses were actually being overworked and unappreciated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so basically, I don't. I've read the article. I don't have it in front of me, but I know that it's a wonderful. I was encouraged by the article, but I haven't heard her on the radio at any time. So we have to somehow sirens in the background. They're not coming for me.
All right. You heard it. Yeah, that's on the studio. We can't control that right now, but we're right here.
I know. I'm just joking, but I was just going to say very quickly. If we can, I would love to hear what she would have to say to rebuttal on some of these things as well. If we can get her on the air somehow. I listened to Michelle with Roland Martin last night, so if she can do it, we can do it as well. But yeah, so just have a great day, wonderful weekend. I know there's a lot on the menu, a lot on the table. I just wanted to call you, let you hear my voice, and talk with you all. It's always good to be in your presence, and thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, caller, for joining us at the table. What are some of the things that we possibly can do? And Diane, I know you kind of dived in on this a little bit when you mentioned that if we diagnose it earlier and go to our doctors and seek help, some of the medications might work a little bit better.
And before you answer that, because this is the time of year where people start realizing things, because people come together for Thanksgiving, for the holidays.
Absolutely.
And they start noticing, oh, mama done look.
Right.
Or look at the house.
Or she left something out of that recipe.
Exactly, right, yeah. And so that's when people start realizing things aren't quite right.
Exactly. So yeah, this is the time that we recommend when you're going to visit loved ones, pay attention. Pay attention. Look at check the drawers, check the closets. You might find that key that she lost in the freezer. So I know with my mother, when I would come home to visit, sometimes I would just I'd pick an area that I was going to clean. And I remember one time cleaning out the linen closet, and some of the sheets on the bottom had turned to paper. They just hadn't been moved.
Oh,
So she
wow.
was, washing the same sheets and using the same sheets all the time. She had a whole closet full of sheets, but she wasn't rotating them, And so the ones on the bottom had just literally, they crumbled in my hands when I picked them up. So, do some digging, do some research.
And I like that. And so we talked about early diagnosis. Sometimes medication can help and it might kind of slow the process down, but there's not a cure right now.
Right.
Right.
But there are other things that possibly we can do, like our diet. I was reading about different types and colors of fruits and vegetables, kind of help the brain a little bit.
Right.
Vitamin
Right.
D.
Yes.
Anything that's good for your circulation is going to be good for your brain.
Yep.
Oh,
So anything that's bad for your circulation can be bad for your brain. So
Exactly.
you talk about smoking.
Yes.
Smoking
yes.
is a big one. So
That's a very big
yeah,
one.
nicotine constricts those blood vessels going to your brain.
so what you're telling us is that the more oxygen we get in our system, so like, because when you smoke, you don't get as much oxygen into your system. When you exercise, you get more oxygen into
Right.
your system.
Right.
So what you're saying is that we have to really be mindful of some of the things that we have control over to be a little bit more proactive.
Yep. Blood pressure,
Absolutely.
cholesterol, all those things they'll
Yes.
contribute. Your diabetes. If you have diabetes, you got to control it. You got to get that A1C down because, and people don't realize about diabetes. We think about sugar, but really the issues with diabetes is small blood vessel disease. So it affects the small blood vessels in your eye. So you're more prone to developing retinopathy. So you can be blindness is one of the leading causes of blindness in the U.S. It affects the small blood vessels in your kidneys. So you're more prone to developing renal failure and end up on dialysis. It affects the small blood vessels in your feet, and so you're prone to having amputations. But it also affects the small blood vessels in your heart. So with people with diabetes, they don't die from high sugars or low sugars. What they die from is heart attacks and strokes. And so if you don't keep that sugar controlled, it's going to affect those small blood vessels in your brain. And so you get this multi-infarct dementia. You get, so you might not have necessarily Alzheimer's per se, but you have dementia from the diabetes. So it's important that you really take care of those things. Get in to, get your checkups. A lot of people, in fact, half of people who have dementia don't even know it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, just going back to what you said, Karen, we, I don't know, the Alzheimer's likes 10. We like the number 10.
Okay, sure. Go
So I
right
have
ahead.
10 healthy habits for
I
your
would like
brain.
to hear that. Go
Okay.
right ahead.
So again, challenge your mind. Find, Sudoku or puzzles or different things that you can do to challenge your mind. Learn a new subject, learn a new language. We have so many languages in our community now. Let's learn to communicate with one another in their language. So taking some steps to do that. Let's learn Hmong. Let's learn Spanish. Let's learn some of the things that we can do to be in community with one another. Another thing is stay in school. Education, it reduces the risk of cognitive decline. So take another subject, work on that master's or work on that PhD that you put aside years ago while you were raising your family. Protect your head as you're doing that exercise. If you're bicycling, wear your helmet. If you're motorcycling, it just breaks my heart when I see the motorcyclists without helmets on. Protect your head. It's so important. Control your blood pressure, as Dr. Izzard said. So even if we can't be, if we don't qualify for those medications that are to help the Alzheimer's, let's take the medications that we do qualify for. Let's take our blood pressure medicine. Let's take our diabetes medicine. So many people will say, well, because of the side effects, I don't want to take this or I don't want to take that. Take your medication. If the doctor has determined and diagnosed that you have high blood pressure, take your blood pressure medication.
Yeah, because I know a lot of times with that, people are like, well, I might have to go to the bathroom more, or, those are all the kinds of issues that they face. But, what you're saying is that we need to talk to our doctors too, to see whatever else they might have. Is that correct, Dr. Izzard, when people have those challenges?
Better go to the bathroom frequently than have to go to the bathroom on yourself, right?
And that's what you're saying could possibly happen if you don't take the medicine.
Right.
Or to take it one step further, it's better to go to the bathroom frequently than to have someone else have to take you to the bathroom.
There you go. Yeah.
Because you can no longer do it on your own.
Okay.
So do things to
Yes.
preserve your life and to have that long life. I have the ability to live much longer on this earth, but we want to have a quality of life while we're living longer.
Yes.
Yes.
So do the things that you need to do. As I used to tell my children, do the hard stuff so that later on you can do the easy stuff and enjoy your life. So do
That's
the
another
hard
word
stuff now.
today. What number are you on, Diane?
Okay, we want to eat right. We want to be smoke free. We want to manage our diabetes. We want to maintain a healthy weight. We want to sleep well, and we want to get moving. Eat less, move more.
Yep. And I think one of the ones that we kind of underestimate, we see you, caller, we'll get right to you, is those using your brain. We know that, with people that, and this is a big thing now with isolation, especially with men. A lot of men are isolated. They don't have relationships. Those relationships keep your brain moving, keep your brain making new connections with those neurons. So if you do have a neuron that's not working, you can work around it. But yeah, doing those Sudokus, those puzzles, those kind of things, they really stimulate your brain.
And that's one reason why I think I just want to keep working for a while instead of thinking about retirement, because what else I'm going to do? I want to keep my brain moving.
There
right?
you go. That's
be
it.
challenged. But we're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna come back to having discussion at the table today. Please feel free to join us at 414-444-5253, 414-444-5250. We're talking about Alzheimer's today, and please join us at the table. See you back.
Hi there, this is Pastor Richard D. Shaw of the St. Matthew CME Church, encouraging you to vote in
Time more. Around here, we have hardworking people that just need a break. Whether it's investing in small businesses or making housing affordable, Vice President Harris gets it.
Kamala Harris is making sure Black men have the tools to build generational wealth. She'll put a policy in place that gives 1 million forgivable loans to help entrepreneurs, including Black entrepreneurs, start their own businesses. She also plans to give $25,000 in down payment assistance for first-time homeowners and crack down on racial bias in home appraisals. Harris's plan will help Black men own more assets so we can build long-term wealth.
This is what an investment in my community looks like. We're trying to build generational wealth. No get-rich-quick schemes, no scams, no one-time check, none of that. Vice President Harris got our back. I'll be there on November 5th. Will you be there?
I'm Kamala Harris, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Harris for President.
860 AM, 106.5 FM. WNOV, The Voice.
It's like a diamond ring, it's a precious thing.
I want to welcome everybody back. This is Karen Dotson from the All of Us Research Program, and you're at the table this morning. For people that are interested in joining the All of Us Research Program, please call us at 414-955-2689, or you can go to joinallofus.org. I have along with me Dr. Kevin Izzard, family
Good
practice
morning.
physician, and also I have Diane Milner from Alzheimer's Association with us this morning. And we've been having some, I always say, strong, deep conversation about an illness that we and every family has been challenged with in one capacity or the other. And what really, kind of got me is that we talked about Alzheimer's, we talked about diabetes, and talked about high blood pressure being something that can affect people. And then when I was looking at the information that the All of Us Research Program is pulling out, they mentioned that Black African American participants with high blood pressure were 10 times more likely to have dementia than Black African American participants with healthy blood pressure.
Mm.
So, what is that telling us? We need to make sure that we take our medications. That's what we talked about. And they also mentioned even Latino is 8 times more, and for white participants, it's about 3 times more. So blood pressure really plays a significant role with Alzheimer's
Mhm.
and with dementia, and with, of course, we talked about it affects your heart, it affects your kidneys. So it all kind of rolls together, Dr. Izzard.
Yeah, it does. It does. It does. And so, and a lot of us, we're not getting out and getting our annual exams, and it's good to do that. You should, get a checkup, yearly, especially as you get to this age, because things start to happen. There was a interesting study that came out earlier in the year and has been getting a lot of press, looking at aging. And so we thought that aging was kind of a gradual process. So as you get older, things start to decline and over a gradual way. But what we find is that this study showed that there were actually 2 periods of time where your body really made big changes. One was age 44 and the other one was age 60. And so, a lot of people are, at that age, 60 is about the time where a lot of people are finding out that they have, they're having these memory problems. And, some of it may be women going through menopause and men having low testosterone levels and other things. But this age is the time where you start to see these what they call mild cognitive impairment. You're forgetting things, and it's, if you're concerned about those things, you should really get in to see your doctor, get that mini mental status exam. Where we're talking about those 3 questions that we ask you and have you recall them back in 5 minutes. We have people. Well, there's a thing we call a clock drawing, where you have to draw a clock and you have to put the numbers on a clock and then point to a certain time, and you'll be surprised at how many people they call stacking. No, they can't put the numbers on the 1 through 12 on the clock. They're all stacked on one side. Those are those signs that kind of indicate, okay, things are going wrong. And then you might need to have like a more detailed mini mental or mental examination, with a memory specialist, to really parse things out. But the doctor can really do, a mini mental status exam to try to see if you do have something that's really real, or if it's just that you're too busy and you're overwhelmed with other things.
We have a caller on the line this morning. Good morning, caller. Thank you for joining us at the table.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I was calling in to ask about Alzheimer's and heredity.
Thank you, caller, for calling this morning. And it has some factors related to your genetics. Is that correct,
Yeah,
Dr.
yeah,
Izzard?
yeah. So you inherit that. So if you have especially first degree relative, a parent, who has Alzheimer's, you're more likely to develop that too. Um, and again, this is another reason that we like to do these this research looking at genes, because we want to know how closely is that, and how much impact does do the genes have compared to the lifestyle things.
Yes, because I have a cousin who currently suffers from Alzheimer's. Her mother suffered from Alzheimer's, and I get worried every time I go into another room and forget what I went in there for. So I'm just really curious because her mother was my mother's sister. So I don't know how that runs in family.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Izzard, that's a question for you.
Yeah, yeah. I can't tell you the exact number or something, but yeah, you are more prone if it's and the closer the relative is to you, so if it's an aunt, it's less likely than if it's a parent, or even more so if it's a sibling who has Alzheimer's.
So, what I'm hearing from you is that this was her aunt and her daughter developed it as well.
Mm-hmm.
This is her mother's sister. So, maybe her mother's sister might have had the gene, but her mother might not have had the gene to
Yeah.
pass it on.
So we don't
Is
know
that
what the
the way
gene
that
is,
works?
right? That's the thing. That's the thing. We don't even know what the gene is. We know that that these things are happening in the brain. We're not sure if it's environmental, or if it's all genetics, or if it's just your certain genes are more prone to getting these things going on. But yeah, we're not quite sure. And again, and when we talk about dementia, a lot of times people will call dementia Alzheimer's. And again, there's other causes for dementia other than Alzheimer's, and so sometimes we just say, oh, so someone becomes senile and we call it Alzheimer's, and no one goes any further and does any testing to diagnose that, to parse it out. Um, and so yeah, so that's why it's important that you do get an assessment to find out exactly what it is.
Dr. Izzard, you mentioned something about a mini type of assessment that
Mm-hmm.
your doctor can do. Explain that. You mentioned
This
about
is,
three different things that
yeah.
with this mini thing
This
going
is,
on.
this is the one that this is the big joke that Trump, remember, he said I had a mental exam and I passed it with, they never saw anybody have a better test results in this test. So it's what's called a mini mental stats exam. It's I think 20 questions, and what part of it is to ask you to remember three things and to recall them. Part of it is to do what's called serial 7. So you start off at 100, and you subtract 7, and you keep going back. So you go 100, 97, and you keep going back to as far as you can remember. You might have to spell the word world backward. So all of this is kind of manipulating things in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
They have you identify animals. Can you identify the zebra, the lion, um, and we talked about the clock, the spatial relations. Um, you have somebody read something and do what it says that they read. So these are all things that's kind of just seeing if your brain is working. And a lot of it's trying to get you to manipulate things in your mind. The thing about Alzheimer's that's interesting is that you lose your memory of things that the current things, and you keep the past things. So, for instance, people with Alzheimer's can remember things back from 1950, but they can't remember what happened 10 minutes ago.
So, what about the people that lose memory for things way back? Because I know I run across some people, and that's even happened to me sometimes. Like some people can remember better than me, and they're like, "Don't you remember when you?" And it's like 30 years ago or something. And I'm like,
Mhm.
kind of, sort of, maybe. But what
Yeah.
about that? Is that also related, or would that
It
be a
may
little
be there
bit
may be
different?
something going on, but it's yeah, the remote memory usually is intact with
Remote.
Alzheimer's.
Okay.
Yeah, and so in fact, a lot of times that's what they hold on to, those old memories,
Mhm.
and they think that somebody is somebody they knew years and years ago.
hmm And that's oftentimes how families miss things, because they'll say,
Mm-hmm.
"Mom has a great memory. She can remember back when she was in school,"
Mm-hmm.
but they forget that mom can't remember seeing you yesterday when you came by the house.
For the caller that just called in recently, sitting at the table with us. What are some of the things that we can do? Because, a lot of us, are pretty intelligent as far as looking things up or, doing certain things to check on our mental stage or status, I should say. So, what can we do on our own, possibly, to do an assessment? What would you suggest?
Well, I think people start when they start developing this. I said this mild cognitive impairment. Um, that's that stage when you're first having things going on. It's not Alzheimer's, not dementia, but it kind of suggests, okay, we need to watch this because you're starting to forget things, um, and some of it's just doing an honest assessment. Are you too busy? You got too many things on your mind? Are you getting enough sleep? Because again, those things, if you're not getting enough sleep, you're gonna be confused anyway.
Yes.
Are you going through some other health issue, like you're going through menopause, and that and that's something that's going to either improve over time or it's not. Um, and so and then like the caller brought up, there's always that fear in the back of your mind that
It's going to
okay,
happen to you.
exactly right.
Yes.
I know, right? It's
Which
just like,
creates the stress.
It does,
yeah,
right?
that's
Yeah.
that
Creates
right
the
there can
stress,
kind of
yeah.
get you, right?
Mhm.
And that's why, when the caller called in, I was just wondering, like, what possibly can that person do to ease their mind some, knowing the history in their family,
Mhm.
and always thinking, is that going to happen to me? Because I've seen what happens to my loved ones,
Right.
and I don't want that to happen to me.
Right.
So, what do you
Right.
what do you have for that person?
That is one of the things when you do sign for when you do sign for all of us, and they go through the risks and benefits of being in the program. There's an opportunity where you can do a genetic analysis, and they will look at certain genes, and you can either have them do that and not report the results to you, or you can have them report the results to you. And you say, well, why would you not want to hear the results of your genetic analysis? Well, if they find something, then you're stuck dealing with it. And so that might be one of those things
Yes.
that can cause stress. If you know that you have a gene that's makes you more prone to Parkinson's disease or Alzheimer's or something like that, you're gonna be wondering every time something happens, is this it?
Yeah, and sometimes, and so I know some participants that say they
Hmm.
don't want it. I
Yeah.
know I did because I was like, I know my mother had some things that I was like, we couldn't really quite figure out, what was going on with her. And I was like, well, I'd rather know so that way I could prepare myself.
Right.
But
Right.
some people, they feel like if there's no cure, they don't want to know. But a lot of times, there's some things that we can do to be a little proactive, even if we find out. Is that correct?
Yeah, you kind of mitigate it. So again, we talk about those brain exercises. If you're more prone to getting it, we know that education level affects all the dementia and Alzheimer's, and so because people that are engaged and people that are using their minds on a regular basis are more resistant to having the all out memory failure that you get with Alzheimer's. So um, yeah, using your brain is something that it's like exercise. If you know that you don't exercise enough, you get out and you exercise. So if you're not using your brain, you lose it. Those neurons, they die. And so when you're using your brain, you're making new connections in your brain. It's not as many as when you're young, but the ones you have, you want to continue keep those working.
So you
Yes.
said new connections. So that's really interesting to me. So explain that to us a little bit more, Dr. Izzard. New connections in the brain. So basically, it's almost like a muscle in a sense,
Yeah.
and where the more we use it, then it kind of builds on something else. Or
Yeah.
explain that.
Well, you got a neuron is real small, just one cell in your brain, okay? And you got millions of neurons in your brain, and each of those neurons connects to hundreds of thousands of other neurons next to it. So you have this network in your brain where you have a thought and it goes through these different pathways and it goes out to your muscles to make them move, or it's triggering some other part of your brain, and its connections are all important. So if you lose a connection, let's say you're going down Capitol Drive and you want to get to the lakefront out to um, out to Brookfield. Okay, you can go down Capitol, but if Capitol is blocked, then you have to go around here to reroute. Okay. So you might have to go over to North Avenue, or you might have to go over to Burleigh or some other, route. So if those other routes aren't working, then you're gonna have a big problem. But if those other routes are still healthy, you can redirect things. So when you're young, you can take, and this is amazing to me, you can take a baby or a young child who has seizures and remove half their brain, and they still, and you look at them as an adult, and everything is still functioning because they've learned the brain is what they call plastic. It's able to reroute things, and they can learn how to do all the functions that the other half of the brain that's gone was doing. But as you get older, you lose that plasticity. You lose the ability to easily retrain your brain to do those functions. And so you want to keep that brain as plastic as possible, with the ability to, if something happens, you have a stroke or you have a infarct, and when we say infarct, it's really just like a small stroke. It's a blockage of a blood vessel in your brain or wherever we're talking about infarct is. So if you have an infarct and that neuron dies, that was the important one, then the other ones around it can learn to pick up that activity that it was doing.
So that's why it's so important then to, nutrition and exercise to keep the body strong. So if it has to reroute certain things, it can do it.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So, it's really interesting because a lot of times as we get older, people say, I'm going to retire. And then it seems like once they retire, then all of a sudden everything starts falling apart on them because maybe they were using all these things while they were working, and now they're not doing anything. And so then their body just kind of like
That's
just
exactly
starts.
right. And even just relationships, so you're not talking, so you maybe retire and you're not seeing anybody except for maybe your spouse, or when you work, and when you're at work, you're coming in contact with 10, 20 people, you're on the phone, you're doing all this. And so all that stuff, all those conversations, all those problem solving things that you're doing during the day, you don't think about it, is really keeping your brain active.
Wow, we have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller, and welcome to sitting at the table with us this morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Great conversation. I just have two quick questions, and I'm going to hang up and get back on the radio so I can listen. What is the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia? And when is it feasible to take your loved one to the doctor to be checked for either one, and what type of medication might be available and cures it, but what type of medication might be available? Thank you. I'll hang up. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. So we kind of, I hit this earlier, and we'll talk about it again. So dementia is a larger term for any kind of cognitive mental disorder of the brain. Okay, so Alzheimer's is a type of dementia. In fact, Alzheimer's is the most frequent type of dementia thing that can cause, but the other things can cause that dysfunction in your brain. It can be Lewy body dementia. It could be
Vascular.
yeah, it could be vascular problems. And so any you've had a stroke, all those things can cause dementia. They all end up in the same place, but have different causes. And so in some ways it's important because certain things will respond better to other medications. Like for instance, if you have if yours is multi-infarct dementia, because you have high blood pressure, well then controlling your blood pressure is really the thing you need to do. As far as medications, there is no cure for Alzheimer's, and we're still in the stages of trying to figure out what is even causing Alzheimer's. We know that we know the end result of the process, but we don't know what is causing these proteins and these tangles in the brain that are causing the brain dysfunction. So as they find treatment, they're looking for things that might target the proteins and target the tangles that are in the brain that that we think are causing it. But it may be that the tangles are just a side effect of what's going on and not necessarily the cause. Yes, like when's a good time to assess it? Anytime you start seeing that someone is having problems, that things aren't quite right, and it may be subtle. And Diana, you mentioned some of them. Why don't you,
Mhm.
talk about those
So
again?
yeah, anytime you see the 10 warning signs that we talked about earlier, I don't know if you heard them, but memory loss that disrupts everyday life, challenges in planning or solving problems, difficulty completing everyday tasks, confusion with time or place, trouble understanding visual images or spatial relationships, new problems with words or speaking, misplacing things, and losing the ability to retrace your steps, decreased or poor judgment, withdrawal from work or social activities, or changes in mood and personality. Any of those are warning signs. Any of those would be a reason to check with the doctor of the person that you're caring for, or if you have signs in yourself, ask your doctor about that and have some of those diagnostic tests completed. But the main thing in terms of what they talked about, what can you do? Live a healthy lifestyle. So if you are retired, take up a new sport, perhaps. Maybe you want to do running, then researching the running shoes, researching the best clothing wear to use for running, anything that challenges your brain and it makes use of your body. So do something, keep a healthy lifestyle, diet, exercise, nutrition, those kinds of things are important always.
Yeah. Here's another tough one too. Is like we talk about social interactions. A lot of seniors have gotten to the point where maybe the spouse is dead and their friends are going, and they might get out once a week to go to church, but other than that, they're not doing too much. If you can encourage somebody to get into, maybe a facility where they have senior, a senior living facility, so there's other people around.
Or senior centers daily.
Yeah,
They
daily.
can just go
Right.
5 days a week to the
And
senior
those are
center.
free too, aren't they?
They're absolutely free in the county. Absolutely.
Yes, yes.
Absolutely.
We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Thank you for joining us at the table this morning.
Yes, good day, good day. I must be listening to a delay. I had a comment. Am I on air presently?
Yes, you are. You're on the air. Thank you for joining.
Okay.
Yeah, keep
Yes.
your radio down if you're hearing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I was first wanted to give kudos to Dr. Izzard for mentioning that they're not genes related to any recessive gene or what have you related to dementia, Alzheimer's. A lot of people sometimes, as the caller said earlier, think because a parent or grandparent or someone has had dementia or Alzheimer's that it could relate to them. The other thing I wanted to comment on is John Hopkins in May of 2022 did a study on raw sugarcane juice and it having effects of kind of the proteins he was just talking about, pushing back or holding back some of those proteins that cause either dementia or Alzheimer's. And didn't want to ask a question, wanted to know, I do want to ask, what do you think about certain herbal remedies and proper eating, not dead eating, but living eating, changing, some of those directions of, those neurons that you spoke of.
Yeah, I'm always for better eating. We as best we can. We need to limit processed foods.
Right.
And overall, and eating live fruits and vegetables is even better. Not everybody has the resources, and not everybody has the time. So, but yeah, if you can encourage people to do more of that, it's even better. Get enough sleep. That's another area where people are not getting enough sleep at night. They're sleeping 4 or 5 hours and they wonder why they're irritable and confused the next day. Stress levels, trying to, get out of a stressful environment, finding things that to de-stress you, doing activities. All that healthy living, you're right, is good for not just Alzheimer's, but diabetes and high blood pressure and just your mental health in general.
And that raw sugar cane juice does some wonders. People, you ever wonder why you see like Southerners or Caribbean people or Africans chewing on sugar cane?
Yeah.
When we were small, our grannies gave us sugar cane.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like you ate sugar, processed sugar.
Right.
Sugar cane, but it stimulated in a way that didn't make you hyper or anything of that nature, but it gave great brain activity. And when I read the study, I was really shocked because sugar cane is also good as far as the digestive aspect. And so, in our guts, a lot of things happen. So I'm looking at this, I'm like, wow. And my grandmother, my father's mother, had Alzheimer's, but when they institutionalized her diet changed, and because it kind of got severely worse, and her diet changed, and once her diet changed, it really got bad, and so I remember her always giving either us or her chewing on some sugar cane, and it seems like such a trivial remedy, but it can really help in that process. And seeing that study a couple of months back, I heard actually a friend of mine told me she was to be on the radio today. Hi, Miss Diane. But
Lord.
So I said I would call and share that information on that study that I read.
Definitely. I think that we are definitely going to have to look a little bit more into that, because that's pretty interesting to what you mentioned. The other thing is that when I was reading also red meat, they mentioned that that is not so healthy for us as we think, and we should be very limited with red meat as well. But I want to thank you, caller, for calling in today.
Thank you, caller.
Yes,
We have another caller on the line that we want to get to before we get to our break. Caller, you're on the line. Thank you for calling. Sitting at the table with us.
Okay, you're welcome. I have a 3-part question. I'm 90 years old, so I might not be able to communicate like I should.
That's okay.
But
You're doing good.
I was in to see the doctor just 2 days ago. I had fall, and then I asked her after we discussed the fall about the Alzheimer's, dementia, and loss of. So she said, no, she explained Alzheimer's and the dementia and the loss of memory. So with the loss of memory, it's, we talked about, because I'll call y'all right now, and my train of thought leaves. I'll go to the refrigerator, and in 3 seconds, I don't know why I went there and what to get out. Is that loss of memory? Is that a sign of coming dementia?
Yeah, it could be. So you said you did see the doctor, correct?
Yes, the doctor I went to 2 days ago.
Okay.
I asked her that question because I had fallen, and I was trying to clear up some things with her. And then when I asked her about the dementia and Alzheimer's, and then I asked about the loss of memory, because I do have loss of memory. Sometimes I'll know the day is Friday, and I know the day is the 1st, but I might not know when Sunday get here. I might be thinking it's Monday. I have to go back to see what I watched on TV to know it's Monday.
One thing, caller, that I can say too, that even when I'm not working, and you off for so many days, you like, is a day Monday, Tuesday? But I mean, like, I know Monday through Friday because I'm have to be at work every day. So then you count the Saturday. So it's always more conscious for you too. But when you're retired and you're home all the time, those days kind of can blend a little bit. I know we have another caller on the line too, and we're going to also have to take a break. But Dr. Isser, did you have any comments for this last caller?
If the doctor didn't take you seriously, keep pressing. Either see another doctor or ask them again. I really think something's not right, and do it till you're satisfied, because there may be something going on. But I assume I'm hoping that when you saw the doctor, they did some blood work and other tests too. And so
he did 4 tests. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So let's see what those results look like.
Yeah.
But,
and follow up with them.
Don't give up on that.
I know we have another caller on the line. Do we have time to take this caller before break, or we have to take it after break? Okay. Thank you for calling. Caller, if you can hold on the line. We also have another guest that we're going to have to bring in that's going to be a little bit different related to this conversation. What I'm going to do is that in this transition of time, I'm going to thank Diane for being with us today.
Yes. And can I remind
Please,
people
please.
to come next week? Call 800-272-3900 and register for the Caring for the Caregiver on November 9th at St. Mark AME Church. Are we still there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's
call
great.
and register and check out any questions that you might have. ALZ.org is a good resource. I'm always available. Call 1-800-272-3900 and ask for me. I can call you back and answer any questions that you might have. Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you for
Karen,
joining
having
us at the
today.
table today, Diane
Diane.
Milner with Alzheimer's Association. We'll be back on the other side. Call if you want to hold on. We'll get to your call, and then also we're going to bring in a very special person that works with veterans as well this afternoon. This morning, we're going to bring them in to have more conversation about health-related issues and veterans as well. So we'll see you on the other side.
And we never the one losing. It's like favorite
I want to
song
welcome
that
everybody
love
back. This is Karen Dotson from the All of Us Research Program at the Medical College of Wisconsin. And you're at the table this morning with me and Dr. Kevin Izzard. Hey, Doctor. Yes. We just had Diane Milner with us from Alzheimer's Association. And caller, thank you for being on hold while we went through the little break here. But we want to join. We're asking you to join us at the table this morning. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Ms. Dotson. Andre Lee Ellis.
Good morning.
How are you,
Mr.
Andre?
Good morning. Is that Dr. Izzard still?
This is me. I'm still here.
Hey, man. Here's what I want to do real quickly because I know you're trying to make that transition. I want to talk the importance of Black men. As you know, I work with Dr. Erica Sinclair with Health Connections and Dr. Yvonne Greer with MCOP, and I'm the men's chat lead for these conversations. And I want Black men to really know the importance of knowing their numbers because we are some of the main ones that are being hit hard with the high blood pressure, the diabetes, and heart attacks and things like that. And it's happening at the last moment because we didn't have a primary physician or anything like that.
They can't put you up to this because this is an exact transition into what we're talking about next. Men's health.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. It's that. Well, let me just tell you this: that we also have the garden with food, and we did something tremendous this week. We were in the lobby of the Aurora Sinai Samaritan Hospital on 12th Street, and we gave away free fresh salads. That of everything grown from the garden and some other partners, but it was all fresh food. And what was tremendous about it is within 2 hours, we had did 100 salads and over 50 bags of lettuce. So people are interested in the food. Yeah. I'm not sure how accessible it is. And so I'd like to reach out and say to people, start thinking about growing your own food in your own garden at your own house. And that'll bring your family together. Get your young people involved, things like that. Yeah. I'll say that, and then I'll hang up. And thank you all for everything.
Yeah. Thank you for that comment. You know, I was thinking, I read an article not too long ago, and this is a little while ago, and it was about grounding yourself, you know, and how, you know, you build up. Now, I don't know how much of this is grounded in science, but, you know, you develop a charge in your body, and the only way to discharge that is to touch the ground. And I thought about how often do I have my feet on the ground? You know, I'm usually in a building, I'm in the house, you know, on the floors. But how often are you actually outside with your feet in the ground, and how often do you touch the soil? And you know, so that's something that's important. You know, when you garden, it's not just the food that you get out of it, but just the very act of, you know, of contacting the soil and then when that thing grows and you eat it, you know, it means a whole lot more because you grew it. You know, you had a role in its coming to existence. You know, and that cycle, you know, that cycle continues. You know, you make the food, you eat it, returns to the ground, it grows up again. So yeah, thank you for that comment. And you know, I'm glad to see that, you know, they were giving out salads because a lot of us don't eat salads, you know,
and
especially
plus,
men.
you know, vegetables and fruit is expensive, and so that's been some of the challenges that we have.
Right.
When Diane was leaving, I told her I would mention to folks that this is Caregivers Month, so just be mindful of that, and that's one of the reasons why they're having the event at St. Mark's AME Church, November 9th from 10 to 3. And also this month is very special for us too. And we have a very special guest, and it's an honor and it's a pleasure to talk with him all the time. His name is Otis Winstead. He is the president and CEO for Great Lakes Dry Hooch. That's a nonprofit veterans association. He is a veteran peer support specialist and a lead community health worker providing support for Milwaukee community. His primary focus has been engaging with veterans from marginalized groups. In addition, Mr. Winstead is on the Community Advisory Board for the All of Us Research Program at the Medical College of Wisconsin. And I just want to say welcome to you this morning, Otis.
Thank you, Karen. This is a real honor.
I talked to Otis and I said, Otis, I heard that and I was listening when Michelle had you on about a week or so ago, and the conversation we had about that Black veterans and just the challenges that they have with their health and what opportunities are there. And because this is going to be a special month for you also, because you're having an event that's coming up real soon.
Right.
And so I wanted to just kind of talk with you a little bit. First of all, like, why do you feel research is important, especially being a veteran? And then we're going to dive some more into some of the work that you're doing.
Okay. Again, I just want to say thank you to you for inviting me and WNOV for being here. So I'm going to dive into the All of Us research program and how I got involved, how Dry Hooch got involved with it. I was over at Brady Street and they had been contacting me, and finally one of the researchers or coordinators for the program came over and talked to me. And Karen, it was a profound conversation because she came in and she stayed with me about 45 minutes to an hour. And initially, like a lot of folks in the Black community, I was a little bit hesitant because of what happened with the syphilis studies and whatnot, right? I could go through a whole bunch of things that
yes,
occurred.
most definitely.
But she sat and talked to me, and this is the thing that she said to me that was profound and something that I had that I have to share. She talked about precision medicine. Precision medicine, and I was like, okay, what are we talking about? And she says, Otis, these are my words, but I'm kind of paraphrasing here. She said, European males, right? Their medications that have been utilized are utilized based on studies on European white folks. Same difference, right? And I was like, wow, yeah. She says, now wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be different if, in fact, we had research done based on our genetic makeup, based on our genes, based on our DNA? And I began to think about how my high blood pressure medication wasn't working. So I'm just saying, I take a lot of different medications, and that's what really drew me into the whole program, because I don't think, speaking about the program itself and Black folks, right? I don't think people are aware. I don't think that they're really aware of how that can make a difference. The medications that you're taking, they're not compatible possibly with your makeup, because, and I'll say this again, because the medications were not tried and tested on you. They were tried and tested on European Americans,
right?
Basically white guys,
right?
Older white guys,
right?
So I myself, before I got my actual group involved, I became a participant, right? And they drew some blood, and I say about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, I began to get results back. Now, the big thing about that is this. One of the hooks is they tell you that your ancestry, right? You're going to get your information back, right? And that was big. That was a big deal, for me, right? But then when I began to get some of that information back as it related to me, I stopped thinking about me and I began to think about my grandkids. How this can affect them and even my children, right?
Right.
Because I'm a bit older, but I knew that my participation would possibly benefit my grandchildren, my some younger folks. But just to say this, that DNA piece, the genetic piece, so it comes back, and I'm thinking, well, it's going to be African, ran from Africa type thing, right? And like 20%, they said Jewish, right? I said Jewish. What
Jewish?
Yeah, that's what they said. I was like, what is this right here, right? And they even gave me a tribe. They actually gave me a tribe. So that was interesting. It wasn't the deal breaker, but it was interesting to know that. Yeah.
But one thing, Otis, that you mentioned is that also getting the medical information back really makes you start thinking about your grandchildren and your children, and how your genetics is going to play a role in their health, and how we can be more proactive with that.
Yeah,
I'm
excited about this whole thing with precision medicine, because as you kind of alluded to, someone comes into me has high blood pressure, newly diagnosed, we're gonna start them on the medication. There's 100 different medications out there I could pick. So I'm gonna try to figure, okay, they have something else I might be treating with the same blood pressure medication? But really, it's trial and error. And I put you on something. Let's come back in a month. Let's see how it's doing. If it's not quite there, we might raise the medication. We might add something else to it. But it's all trial and error. It'd be nice to know that you got a certain gene that means that beta blockers don't work well for you.
Absolutely.
Or that calcium channel blockers aren't going to be are more likely to cause you to have side effects. And that's what precision medicine is just knowing that, getting to that point where it becomes precise, knowing that this medication is going to work best for you and have less side effects.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to kind of change the subject just a little bit because I want to make sure we tune in to some of the things that you're doing, Otis, as it relates to the veterans. And the conversations that we've been having and the conversations you've been having with the community have been very significant. And those conversations are related to health challenges that our veterans are having, benefits that our veterans could be getting. So just chime in a little bit on that with me and just kind of give us an overview of some of the things that you've been doing with our veterans.
Yeah. So one of the things that we kind of talk about is, and this is about burn pits, right? Toxic burn pits. And I'm going to get to our situation.
Go right ahead.
But
Yes.
toxic burn pits, right? Nobody thinks about it that much, but I know recently, in the last year or so, a lot of veterans are retiring because of the effects of that toxic burn pit piece. And that has to do with precision medicine also.
Yes,
but that's not so much a color thing. That's something totally different. I mean, it can be, but it's kind of, I think whether you're black or white, that can affect your makeup, being exposed to toxic burn pits. Big deal. Thing is that the black veteran is not always exposed to that. You have a lot of white veterans coming in and they're being treated for it. I mean, a significant number. But I very seldom see black veterans, and I'm talking about the younger veterans, the OIF veterans, post 9/11 veterans moving forward, that they don't really are exposed to that. So that's precision medicine at it again, working hard and the research is always developing, and changing, right? So that's important. When we talk about information as it relates to black veterans and health benefits and issues, so we have to speak to a lot of different areas. Okay. This is a great program. I'm glad I'm here because I think that maybe even in this drive, we can reach a significant demographic, black veterans. So when we talk about, let's say claims, we're just going to use that as a starting point. And people, and I want to be clear about this. Let's say that 10 years ago, you got out of the service and you fell off the back of a truck. We're going to use that as an example. You fell off the back of the truck and you got out of the service and you didn't file your claim. You just figured I'll be okay, and that was it, right? 10 years later, you're having back problems, significant back problems, significant leg problems, right? And you file your claim. My contention, or the contention has always been, when you file that claim, you should be able to file that claim based on whenever the injury occurred. Makes sense, right? However, normally what happens is that if I file it today, retroactive pay will begin today. Like, it may not be approved for a year, but and that's it's not like that anymore. 4 months, 6 months, you're going to get your return. But if you're looking at, or why aren't we looking at that 10-year period whenever the injury actually started, right? Historically, they'll go back 2 years, and that's not guaranteed. I just want to say, but they will go back 2 years, right? And they may go back to the 10 years, which is highly unlikely, though, to take that back. So that's very important, for people to know that. Get your claims filed, and it's always based on the individual, but across the board, we're going to take it back 2 years, possibly.
Otis, when I was talking to you earlier, and one thing that you mentioned that your organization will do is that you will work with individuals to kind of help them walk through and go back in years to see exactly maybe when some of that happened.
Oh,
Because a
absolutely.
lot of times, we take it for granted when we're younger,
Hmm.
but then all of a sudden, you kind of bring them back to, well, this is where it really transpired from.
Hmm.
And then also looking to see what types of benefits that people have and what type of health care, because I know you do all that, as far as making sure that if people are in certain facilities that maybe they need to be somewhere else. I mean,
Mhm.
your organization is very strong in looking with that health related issue.
Yeah. So let me just give you another example. 2 weeks ago, I got a call from a vet. And this is the struggle. The struggle is not having access to the information. If you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
But this particular vet, and the reason I bring this story, because this is going to be profound. She called me. Her sister called me actually and said, "Otis, look, my sister was in the service, and I want to say in the '90s, okay, and she experienced military sexual trauma from her sergeant and first sergeant, right? And she's been out in the street and she's been using drugs, blah blah blah, as a way of dealing with things. That's in my mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whenever she actually called me and told me the story, right, and she had kind of forgotten about the whole thing, just kind of like put it in in the back of her mind, and it's coming out now, right? She's starting to talk about it because nobody kind of knew, right? Those are the kind of cases that I'm talking about. The case where, and this goes to health issue.
Mhm.
This goes
Yes,
to
definitely.
PTSD. It goes to trauma informed care, right?
Mhm.
So the first thing was to get her treatment over at the VA, right? And then the second thing was to start to file that claim, and we'll see where that goes. Those are examples. I mean, that's one example how we actually walk you through this whole process. When we talk about having information, a lot of vets come and they come to Dry Hooch. Vets come to Dry Hooch just actually to have a cup of coffee. They don't know why they're there, but they're there for a reason.
Mhm.
And it may take a few weeks, it may take a month after they come, and then they start talking to us, and we start to engage and kind of figure out what the issues are. We are a peer professional group, right? We're not professionals, but in a lot of instances, that vet needs somebody to walk with them through their journey, whatever that journey looks like. It may be jobs, it may be housing, most likely it's going to be healthcare, right? And as you know, we know a lot of folks over at the VA, at the medical college, and with Marquette, and I can always call, and I don't think he'll mind me saying it, I can always call Zeno Franco, Dr. Franco, Dr.
Yeah,
Franco, look here,
yeah.
man, this is what's happening with these people, right?
Yeah.
And he'll pull him in because he's a psychologist,
Yes.
and that's where it all begins at. It is always about trust.
Hey, so, let me ask a question because first of all, the name Dry Hooch.
Mhm.
What's the origin of the name?
So Robert Curry, the founder of Dry Hooch, who's really kind of semi-retired right now.
Mhm.
Dry, all of our locations, right? We have a number of them.
Mhm.
You come there, you can't be high, you can't be drunk, right?
Mhm.
You can't be in that building.
Right.
We don't say don't do it. We say don't do it here.
Okay.
Don't do it here.
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
So Dry.
Okay.
Hooch is a place where you stayed at whenever
Right.
you were in combat when you're overseas. A hooch
Okay.
could have been
Okay.
it could have been your truck. It could have been a hole in the ground, whatever. It was a hooch.
Uh-huh.
That's what it describes. So it's Dry Hooch.
Okay. And so how many locations do you have?
Here. So here in Milwaukee, we have two. We have one on Brady Street and we have one on National Avenue.
Uh-huh.
We also have we just built a big location up in Madison about 2 years ago, right?
Mhm.
We partnered with Gorman and Company, right?
Mhm.
And we built like a 56 unit apartment building along with a 3,000 square foot dry hooch on the bottom, right
Mhm.
down from the Capitol,
Mhm.
right? Chicago, we got locations in Chicago.
Yeah.
We also have locations in Atlanta. And we're always, the way things are going now, brick and mortar locations are kind of expensive
Mhm.
to actually build up. So we're doing a lot of virtual stuff,
Mhm.
because the younger vets, they like their phones and they want to do this whole
Technology,
thing.
right?
Yeah. Technology will take you there, right?
Right. Right.
So but we do a lot of training. We partner with the medical college, the VA, and also
Uh-huh.
Marquette, and these are great partners.
Uh-huh.
And I ain't stroking them. I'm telling you, these are some great people.
Yeah.
And we've been able to create some veteran-centered peer support manuals,
Yeah.
opiate use disorder manuals, right?
Yeah.
And we have an app that allows us to engage with each other 24/7 if we need to.
Uh-huh.
And my big thing about that at the app is that I'm involved with the Better Ways to Cope grant, right? That's a community grant. And my big thing now is we're working with some people in Europe. We have developers in Europe, right? So I'm trying to transition this app into a community-based app where, providers can also in the community, not necessarily vets, can use this app. So if you're my mentee, right, and I'm the mentor, and you have issues, let's do this thing right here.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Great.
And then I'm being kind of summarizing the whole thing, but we're getting this thing off the ground. I just seen some things yesterday where our developers over in Europe have what they call a tight form now that we can actually do it. Where if you have a organization, and it doesn't matter, this could go to schools, it could go to medical places, whatever the case may be, where caseworkers are involved and they have their clients.
Yeah,
we can work together over the app.
Okay.
That's crisis prevention.
Otis, if people really want to reach you, how can they reach you?
Yeah, so I'm going to give you my number, and if a veteran or a family member needs to get in contact with me for anything at all as it relates to veterans issues, right, I can be reached at 414-336-6576, or you can stop past one of our locations. One of our locations is 4801 West National Avenue, and the other one is 1030 East Brady Street. You can stop at either one of those locations, pick up a card, let me know, or we have people on staff there all the time.
That's wonderful to know that you provide that support. I know you have something special coming up next week to really acknowledge some of the Black veterans as well, right?
Yeah. I humbly say this. Another good Kevin, right?
Yeah.
You're one of those guys I can just talk to. I can see the already. I can say I would take you outside and pick your brain.
Yeah.
He'll do it too.
My brain.
But
a little bit.
I had the honor and pleasure. A guy by the name of Vernon Townsend, right? Miss Kemp came to my office. That's she's a photographer.
Yep, I know. Yep.
And she came to my office about 6 weeks ago. And she called me. She said, "Otis, I need you to help with my father." Right? I said, "Okay, bring him down. He's got a claim." So he gets to my office, right? He gets to my office, and I'm looking at all this paperwork and everything, and I'm saying, "Okay, we can do this." As we're leaving my office, I say, how old are you? He says 103. Right?
What a blessing.
What a blessing. And
Yeah.
I say, okay, does anybody, first one, I couldn't believe it. We get out on the sidewalk, and all the veterans out there want to take pictures with the guy, right?
Yeah.
And we're taking these pictures, and I asked Ms. Kemp, has he ever been recognized by the veteran community? She says no, right? So when she says no, we start this whole journey of how we're going to get him recognized.
And so that's going to be next weekend, right?
That's going to be November 7th.
November 7th. Okay. We appreciate you for joining us at the table this morning, Otis Winstead. This is Karen Dotson from the All of Us Research Program at the Medical College of Wisconsin. If you have questions, if you would like to join, you can go to joinallofus.org, or you can call us at 414-955-2689. Dr. Kevin Izzard, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. You hung with me the whole 2 hours.
Yeah. I took a vacation.
And Otis, you have one more thing.
Yeah, one more thing to say. Dr. Daryl Williams, I don't know if anybody knows him or not, but he came in, and he's one of our persons that's helping me with this event. And his number is 414-614-9913 for tickets. If you can't get a ticket, you just come down there, and we can probably get your ticket at the door. That's at the Royal Memorial, November 7th from 10 to 2.
All right. We thank everybody for joining us at the table today. We had Diane Milner as well with Alzheimer's Association. This is Karen Dotson, Dr. Kevin Izzard. Thank you again, Otis Winstead. Everybody have a blessed weekend.